I'm sure you know all the facts and figures that are coming out of it at the moment. And the DWP did an evaluation of the Mayor's Day One support for young people trailblazer. And what they found was that the young people said that they didn't have time to look for work. After 30 hours compulsory work, they couldn't find, they didn't have the time. Yep. And I would imagine that that's a fairly general finding. I'm guessing, but I bet it is. I mean, if we, in London, for example, 9,000 disabled job seekers were sanctioned last year. And it strikes me that there's a big problem out here, and that it's perhaps time that mandatory work placements were stopped. Would you agree?
Very political issue, that, and it depends on what side of the fence you are. I think we've got a real problem about communication in the system, which leads to sanctioning. So at the moment, if somebody's been through a work capability assessment, the findings of that work capability assessment are not routinely shared with providers of work programme or wherever they've been referred. So if somebody's got a mental health difficulty in particular, and say for instance they've been referred to the work programme, they just don't turn up. Yeah. And there's no engagement and no ability for the provider to actually work out what's going on, and they haven't had the WCA. The chances are they feel they have to refer that back to job centre class. And I think in too many occasions that then leads to a sanction. I think there's also an issue around fluctuating conditions around this as well. So we've looked long and hard at this as part of the Work and Pension Select Committee inquiry, and there's something going wrong in the system about not communication, and also the definition of vulnerability. Because if somebody is vulnerable, they shouldn't be eligible for a sanction, and that's sometimes going wrong as well.
Well, all right, let's go back to the DWP evaluation of the Mayor's thing. They found that young people who completed the scheme were half as likely to be in paid employment compared to those who didn't complete it. So we're saying it's not even working. And you say it's political, but I'm talking about practical facts and figures here that show it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, I'll focus on the human aspect of it. Shore Trust was one of the trailblazer organisations that worked on this. And we feel it's very important for us to get involved in some of these controversial programs, because it's the only way we can learn to improve it better for the next step. And because we have no motivation, it's not financial for us or anything like that, other than what's best for the people in our communities and how we can best assist them. We felt it was very important to be involved in this, and we learned several things. So I mean, just to be absolutely clear, 2,169 people were referred to the program, and all of them started. 539 of these went on with a placement, with 344 completing, which was 63.8%, and 231 achieved a job outcome, 42.8%. Right? Now, having said that, we found several major issues with this that we think need to be improved on first. And obviously you have to have an ethical basis for this, and it has to be a real community placement. And part of the challenge was most of the individuals had to be placed within 24 hours, which is unrealistic. And then secondly, as you mentioned earlier, if you're working 30 hours a week and you're meant to then find a job with the other time, there's a major clash on that. So we absolutely believe that we learned great things out of this program, and what we improve next will be there. But there's also been, for those that did find employment and things, there were massive changes in their lives. And we have one individual that actually worked for us until about 2 weeks ago, and he's just started as a probation officer, and that came directly out of this. So what we would plead for, as I know is your focus, is absolute focus on the individual in finding the right placement that's got value and will genuinely assist that individual to transform. And it all comes down to the interaction with the staff person, the very first thing, where the individual actually believes that they're not there because they're forced to be there, but because they want to be there because there's a positive chance of change. And most of the individuals come in worried that the person really doesn't believe in them. They paid just to force them into employment, and that's got to change around. And I have to say that our hubs in Hackney and Lewisham, this is being monitored by the Work Foundation independently. We're seeing results there that we think will start shaping this debate once the hubs have been open 12 years and we can have good results on this.
It's good to hear your individual story, but unfortunately that isn't carried through in the statistics, all right? So let's be clear. Very lucky for that young person, but unfortunately all the others were not so lucky. And Kirsty, you say it's political, but actually this is just practical. Either it works or it doesn't work. I take your point, Roy, about improving it. That's great, because obviously we don't want the scheme to carry on if it, without improvements. But at the same time, if it isn't working, are you feeding that back?
I think the evidence base around compulsion is weak. I'll be completely open about it. I don't think enough is understood nationally about when it does work, when it doesn't work, of the types of job seekers it works for. Generally the feedback from our members is actually they don't want all compulsion to be thrown out the window. They think sometimes actually there's a case for a bit of tough love. However, we know that employment support works best when it's a positive relationship between the individual and the organisation that's supporting them. And so if you're starting from a mandation compulsion point of view, you've automatically got to get over that to actually get somebody in a positive place to take them forward. So be very open about that.
If you feel the case is weak, have you fed that back?
Yes. And I've also given evidence in the Work and Pension Select Committee inquiry and been very, very open about it and had a lot of national publicity as well.
And do you feel there's a receptive atmosphere that changes are going to be made? If not scrapping it, but...
I think there's a listening ear, we actually do some placements in our retail shops because we found that that's one of the most successful areas to actually help individuals move beyond. And in our retail shops, everybody gets paid a living wage. So what we're encouraging the people coming into the placements is to see it as a stepping stone to the next step in their journey. But we think these have to be really time limited. They have to be very specific on what the outcome is meant to be, and you have to be able to show what's going to happen beyond that for the individual, otherwise they lose hope. So I think there is a lot of listening going on at the moment. How that actually translates into the pressures of the financial realities, that's generally when the good innovations get dropped. But I think when we've got these real life case studies, it's very hard to argue against them. And we are trying to work in partnership with DWP and all other stakeholders that are interested in creating something that really is going to change it for the person.
I'm glad you mentioned the living wage because, of course, this is not a stipulation, is it? That isn't a mandatory level of payment.
No, we do it we just do it as a charity because we think it's the right thing to do.
Great. I mean,